Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to all. Today we are here for our debut session of webinar series organized by National CERT, National Cyber Emergency Response Team. Here we have Dr. 𝗦𝗲𝗏𝗲𝗶, Director General NCERT. I would like to welcome him and request him to inaugurate the session.
Thank you very much, Imran, and thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you for joining this online webinar seminar series that has been launched by National Cyber Emergency Response Team. Our first speaker would be Mr. Asad Raza, and he does not require any kind of introduction. He is a very professional kind of cybersecurity specialist, having a bulk of you could say certifications from various institutes around the world, and currently he is affiliated with the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Something about this series. I'm sorry, I'm not in. I'm traveling, so my voice could be a bit scattered. But let me tell you something about this webinar series, that we have this idea that we should start with education and awareness sessions through National CERT. So we should invite our experts from the Pakistani origin and or from all over the world that has their expertise in their specific areas. So the people of Pakistan, our youngsters, and the researchers could benefit from the research and also the expertise of the expert from the various locations around the world. So this will be a continuous series, and we will be announcing various speakers with the latest topics of your interest. Even if you like National CERT to arrange some kind of specific session in some specific area, that could also be arranged and that could also be managed. But this is something that we got some of the feedback from some of our stakeholders from Pakistan, that this should be started with some kind of basic you can say topics and understanding, and with the passage of time we will be extending these sessions. Also, if someone is interested to come up with some kind of if he has done some of the research, he has some of the expertise, and he thinks that this should be disseminated through you can say coordinated channel at national level. So National CERT is here for you to help you, and National CERT is here for you to actually own this kind of initiative and appreciate your you could say efforts in the area of cybersecurity. So without further delay, I would request Mr. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Asad Raza for joining us today for this session. Hopefully, every one of you will be enjoying this session. And thank you very much. And over to Mr. Asad Raza, please.
Thank you, Dr. 𝗦𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Hi, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for Dr. 𝗦𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Imran for arranging this webinar. I've been working with Dr. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 for quite some time now. I think back in 2006, we were in Sweden together, and since then, we have worked in various organizations together. Right now, I'm in the U.S., so I just decided to, move to the United States. But we are always in touch, and it is always a pleasure to work with Dr. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And I would like to thank CERT as well to give me a chance to present and share my knowledge. I think we can start now. So welcome everyone in this webinar, and hopefully we will have more sessions like this in future as well. So today I'll be talking about from brute force to biometrics, the evolution of password attacks in defense. The reason I chose this topic as the first topic of this webinar series is because this is something that even the common users, they face these challenges related to password attacks. The passwords, they get compromised. Plus, the topic is that anybody can attend this session. I mean, it's not too technical, so I've tried to keep this topic, from beginner to medium level, so that those who have, IT background, networks background, or even technical background, they can benefit from this topic, right? So that was the reason that I chose this topic. I deliberately kept it, from beginner to medium level. One of the reasons was also that, I prepared some contents on password attacks and I uploaded them on my YouTube channel, and I got a couple of strikes, and so I stopped working on YouTube as well after that. So, before I start, the idea of this is because I'll be demonstrating some of the password attacks in this presentation. So the main idea is awareness. So whatever we are demonstrating in terms of, offensive security is not meant for, harming other networks. We are not trying to target any, so I'm working on my own virtual environment. So even for those who are attending, it's for educational purposes, and you can use this knowledge to, further enhance the security of your organization. This is a little bit background about myself. I have a very humble background. I have done bachelor's from UET Taxila. I always remember and miss my days in UET Taxila. It was a very laid-back life, and actually, this is where I started my information security interest. So it was my final year project, and I started working on wireless hacking, and then I went for master's in information security at Royal Institute of Technology, where I was working with Dr. Raza. So I started my Ph.D. I would say almost 2 years back in cyber defense in Dakota State University, and I'm currently working on my research. As you can see, my current position is senior lecturer at NGIT. I have more than 13 years of overall experience in teaching, training, industry. I was also lead trainer for UAE Military for cybersecurity. So they were running boot camps for 3 months, where we had, customized kind of course for the military. I have presented in many international conferences and workshops before. I always enjoy traveling. So one of my hobbies that you can see at the bottom, or I would say, is my passion to travel, to different countries. So the best way that I find out that you get sponsored is that, you can go for invited talks, and, your trip is completely free. So I really enjoyed traveling along with presenting at workshops and conferences. I've done, a couple of certifications, which I, find worthwhile. CISSP, OSCP, OWSP, ISO 27001 lead auditor. But, it really depends on what you actually are trying to do within security, because there are so many domains in cybersecurity. You have information security management, digital forensics, pen testing, red teaming, blue teaming. So, it's not necessary that you have to do these certification. It really depends on your job role. It depends on your interest. And then you can obviously choose the path of certifications. So since I'm in academic institutions as well, so, I keep publishing. If anybody is interested in looking at my publications, you can visit my Google Scholar page. You can just Google Asad Raza and security, and you will find, or we will share this presentation, and then, you will have access to my publications. So this was a little bit about me. So I'll start this session by sharing some facts and figures to just, highlight the significance of the topic. So as you can see, according to the Microsoft Digital Defense Report, the number of password attacks have increased 74% in 1 year. And this is the report from 2022, which basically means 921 attacks per second globally. Another thing, because I'm doing my research on the APTs, Advanced Persistent Threats, and if you look at the APTs as well, the initial access is most of the time by the APT groups is through phishing and compromising credentials. So even though we have so many tools and technologies and, defense, but still the first point of entry, usually the hackers that they prefer is that, they can gain access to the credentials. Similarly, you can also see that in 2022, the report published by PR News is that actually it should be more, but approximately 24 billion passwords and usernames are available on the dark web. The topic of presentation, this is a little bit about me. Now you can see, right?
Yes, we can.
All right. All right, so I was talking about some facts and figures. So more than 24 billion passwords and usernames are basically available on the dark web. And let me show you something interesting while we are on it. Actually, my password is also there. So, I mean, not the one that I'm using now, because so everybody can go to their browsers and you can actually test it, whether you have ever been pawned before. So this website is called haveibeenpawned.com. Here you can actually enter your email address, and this will basically tell you if your account has ever been compromised or the password belonging to this email account is actually available on the dark web or other data breach websites. So you can see here, pawned in 6 data breaches and found. So basically, actually my account was hacked and I lost access to this account. Probably I remember 2 times. Now my password was reasonably strong. I mean, I was using characters and numbers, and it was not a dictionary word. So I was expecting that this is going to stay for a very long time. But as you can see, this email has been compromised. Just to double check if this actually website is legitimate. This is basically my current email address. I have a very strong password. Plus, we are now using 2FA. So it's so far it has not been compromised. So you can see here that this email address of mine is actually not compromised, but the previous one, the password belonging to that has been published on the dark web and other domains. Similarly, you can also check the password that you have, if that password is actually available on. So for example, if I enter my password that was that was spawned, so you can see it here. It basically, like I said, it was an alphanumeric password, and I was pretty confident that this password cannot be compromised. So this is a good resource where you can actually check, test whether you have ever been pawned before or your email account has been compromised. Similarly, in 2021, the Colonial Pipeline Company in the United States was also attacked, and the hackers, they actually gained access to the pipeline using a single password. And this basically caused fuel shortages across the United States. So you can understand that it's not only about the password of an individual user. That individual user is working somewhere in the company, and then maybe that company has spent millions of dollars in their enhancing their defense, but just because of one individual's mistake, I would say, the whole infrastructure gets compromised. Similarly, there are other stats as well, so I'm just going to skip it. You can read about them later on when we share the presentation. So I'll not bore you with a lot of theory, so I've tried to kept it very short presentation, and then we'll move to the demonstration, where I'm going to just do some basic exercises on password cracking to show you basically how the hackers, they work. There are 3 main authentication methods, as most of you guys are aware. We have something which basically means the usernames, passwords, username and passwords, pins, passphrases. Something the user has or something the user possesses are the smart cards, security tokens, for instance, physical keys as well. And then we have the last one, which probably is the most secure one, is something you are, which basically means the physical characteristics of a person, like thumbprints, eyes, face. So we have now biometric devices that are actually used for authentication, and within them we also have dynamic biometric authentication systems that recognize your voice patterns, which is becoming very common and popular nowadays. So for example, if you call a bank, they're going to authenticate you using your voice. They're going to ask you to say some few phrases, but obviously it has, there are some issues with the dynamic biometrics because you get false positives or false negatives more as compared to the other. Now jumping directly to the most popular authentication method, which is password-based authentication. So despite of having biometrics, it's not it's not very I would say a flexible system that you can integrate and implement everywhere. Obviously, it has cost factor involved in it. So even today, the most popular authentication method is password-based authentication method, and that is why we have selected this topic for presentation. So just to give you a quick difference between to give you a quick introduction on how the passwords are stored. So probably most of you are aware that the passwords are never stored in the clear text, and the reason is because if the administrator of that account or system may have access to all those passwords which are in the clear text. That's why most of the systems, databases, operating systems, they usually store these passwords in the hashed format. So if you don't know what is hash basically means that you have the plain text. It goes through some kind of hashing function, like SHA, for instance, MD5. There are many variants of SHA and PKCERT, for example, and there are many hashing algorithms and protocols out there. So if you see in the first diagram, the password that you set, so for example, this is my Windows password. It will go through the hash function. So Microsoft Windows uses NTLM authentication, and then within NTLM, obviously, it uses different hashing algorithms. So it goes through it, and then it loads this hash somewhere in your database file, which is known as the SAM database, where it stores your hash and along with the user ID. Now, the next time when you want to log into the Windows or Linux, whatever, you provide your user ID and the password. What the system does, it goes on to that particular file, pulls the hash from that file, and then the password that you entered again is going to go through the same hash function. The hash will be generated, and if the hash matches, you basically get authenticated. If this hash doesn't match, which means that either you don't know the password or you made a mistake in the password, so it will not match, and the system is going to prompt you to enter the password again. So this is the basic, I would say, method of how the passwords are stored. So remember that hashes are one way. It's not an encrypted password, means this password is not encrypted. This is hashed password. The difference is that hashed passwords or hashes are irreversible, which means that even if the administrator or the hacker has access to the hashes, there is no way that he can reverse it and get the password because it's truncated. And I just don't want to go into the details of cryptography, but I hope you got the idea. It's not an encrypted password. It's a one-way hash, which means from this to this is possible, but going from hash back to the password is not possible, not at all. This is how the hashing algorithms, they work. So talking about the Microsoft authentication. So like I said, I already mentioned that in your system, in Windows system 32 directory, you will find two files. One is called SAM file and system file. I'm actually going to show you these files as well, but in that SAM database, the user ID and the hashes are basically your passwords are stored. And like I mentioned before, Microsoft basically uses two types of authentication. So the first one is the NTLM authentication, and the second one is Kerberos authentication. The difference is that NTLM authentication is used when you log into the system locally. And it was also used when you are in a work group environment and you are sharing the files with each other. So you can use, Windows was using NTLM authentication to share files and get authenticated to the remote servers. But because there are vulnerabilities in the NTLM authentication, so Microsoft Windows has officially upgraded to Kerberos authentication. Again, Kerberos is basically an authentication protocol. It's also called AAA authentication. AAA means that this protocol will provide you with authentication, authorization, and accountability or logging functionality. So yeah, in a client-server environment, obviously, nobody's using NTLM authentication, so we switched to the Kerberos authentication now. If you look into like I said, into the Windows System 32 config directory, you're going to find this SAM file. Now, the SAM file is actually locked by a system file. So if you're trying to access the SAM file, you probably need the access to the system file as well. But in any case, if you open this file, you will basically see this is how the format is. You have the user ID in the beginning, the username, sorry. Then you have the user ID, which is 500, for example, here. And then you have basically the NTLM hash. So the first part is the LM hash, and the second part is the NTLM hash. Now, the LM hashes are basically for the older versions of the Windows, previous versions. They're still keeping it for backward compatibility, but they upgraded it with the NTLM authentication, which is, NTLM hashes, which are much secure and better than the LM hashes, of course. Right, so I'm going to show you this anyways in the practical. Now, what's the difference between a Windows hash and a Linux hash? The difference is that Linux, it uses one more thing along with when you are a new user and you are trying to set a password for Linux, so you enter the same password just like Windows. But what the system does is that it will generate a random value, and here we call this value as the salt. So it's basically a random number. Now, the length of this salt value, it really depends on the type of Linux operating system you're using, which version are you using. So initially they started, if I'm not wrong, 12-bit, I guess, salt, but now probably the length of the salt is 24 bits. So the reason for generating the salt is, I will explain you shortly, but these two are taken as input, and then Linux also has a slow hash function as compared to the Windows. So let's just assume that there is SHA or SHA-512, which is being used to calculate the hash. Linux actually has lots of formats. If you're using Fedora, it has different hashing algorithm. If you're using Linux Red Hat, it has different hashing algorithms, and so I'll show you those formats. But anyways, these two, they go through the slow hash function, and then the hash is actually loaded into the file. Now, Linux saves or stores the hashes into a file called shadow file. You can find it in the etc directory or /etc. Here you see the user ID, the salt, and the hash value. If you compare it with the Windows, you only see the user ID and the hash value, right? So that's the main difference. Now, the question is that what's the benefit of this salt? If you are adding an extra thing, what kind of advantage are we getting? Well, to explain it in easy words, so password attacks, and like I told you before, cracking the passwords or cracking the hash in a reversible way is not possible. So the way the attackers, they try to crack the hashes or crack the passwords is that they basically prepare a dictionary of words of probable passwords, right? And then they compute the hashes of those passwords, all the dictionary passwords. And then they compare it with the hash value. Now, the thing is that even though if the attacker has the hash value, he doesn't have the salt value, which basically adds complexity, to a great extent. Because, for example, let's just say the password is password 123. And there are 1,000 passwords in the dictionary, and one of them is this, right? So what the attacker has to do is that take one password from the dictionary and exhaust all the salt values along with only one password, and then keep on comparing it with the hash that he has obtained. Then he will go to the second password in the dictionary. Then he will exhaust all the salt values. So, for example, if it is a 24-bit salt, it basically means that he has to try 2^24 times with one password to compare and find out. So you can see the complexity is increased exponentially when it comes to the Unix passwords. One more thing. So why we have this slow hash function? The reason why Linux uses slow hash function is so that if the attacker is trying to brute force, obviously the word brute force I'm not using in the context of actually brute forcing, but if he's using a dictionary and trying to crack the password, every time that he generates the hash, the hashing function, it basically is slower as compared to the Windows. So he has to spend even more time trying to crack Linux password as compared to the Windows password. And usually the slow hashing is achieved by multiple rounds. So for example, in Windows, if it only takes one round to use SHA, Linux will probably have 20 rounds of the same thing and then generate the hash value. So that's the difference. I hope I didn't go into too much technicalities, but I just wanted to make it clear what's the difference between Linux and. So now once you have the password, next time the user, when he enters the password, for example, password 123, the system is going to pull the hash value from the shadow file, and then it will go through the slow hash function. And then similarly, like in Windows, it will do the comparison. If the hash stored in the file is equal to the hash that you generated, you get authenticated. Otherwise, probably you have entered the wrong password. So I'll just take a pause and just see if everything is okay, because I only see my screen and I don't see anything else. So everything is going fine?
Perfectly fine, perfectly fine.
All right, so let's move on. All right, so the big question, what kind of password attacks are possible? Well, first you need to understand what you're trying to do. Is it a password, not you, I mean the attackers they're trying to do? Are they trying to gain access to some online application for or service that is running on the remote system? For example, if it's an SSH or if it's an FTP application and he's trying to brute force the password of that application. Or does he have access to the hashes? So when he has access to the hashes, it means he's trying to crack the password. But if we are talking about a service running on a remote server that he's trying to brute force, then we are probably talking about the online attacks, right? So I've taken this from the CEH, and they have really, summarized the whole password attacks in 4 categories. The first one is the passive online attack. So passive online attack basically means that the attacker is somewhere on the network and he is wire sniffing, he's sniffing the passwords. So for example, if you are on a local area network and, you're trying to sniff the password of somebody on the network, you probably will be running a sniffer tool like, for example, EtherCap, BetterCap, or something like that, and then you'll be. In fact, EtherCap is not a passive online attack tool. It's actually an active online. So similarly, we have man-in-the-middle or replay attack in order to hijack the sessions. The main idea is that you do not interact with the target. You're just sitting on the network and trying to sniff. On the other hand, the active online attacks, that's what I was talking about, that we are trying to gain access to a password which is, somewhere, for a service which is somewhere running on the remote servers. You will probably use techniques in order to brute force the password of that application, either through hash injection or brute forcing simple, dictionary passwords, or you're trying to guess the passwords, or, Trojans and keyloggers can be installed. Phishing can be used where, nowadays it's crazy. I mean, in the United States, you won't believe. I mean, I thought like in UAE when I was there, and I thought like, there's a lot of phishing going on. I mean, in the United States, after every 5 minutes, you get a, fake phone call or a fake email or people trying to phish you. And, so, yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, the top choice of the attackers nowadays for APTs in order to gain initial access is phishing, actually, and spear phishing. So these are the types of attacks which you usually use if you are trying to gain access to a service or, which is online. Plus, I would also like to share one small incident when I was working in UAE. So I was teaching there in an institute, and we found out that a group of students, like 3, they actually gained access to all the students, not all, but most of the students' passwords, plus even some of the instructors' password. And, later we found out when we investigated, they basically somehow gained access to the admin access to one of the labs, and they basically installed keyloggers there. And then they were basically, collecting the passwords for everybody there, right? So yeah, I mean, insiders is always a threat in any organization, and it is needless to say, you guys already know that the weakest link in the security chain is, again, a human element. So whether it is by mistake or deliberate, it's always going to be somebody, they're involved. Then we have the offline attack. So I'm going to demonstrate today these two categories. So active online attack and then offline attack, where basically you have the hashes and then you try to crack the passwords of those hashes. Now, there's a difference here. Remember, there are two types of attacks generally. So one is where you basically have a list of dictionary of passwords, and then you keep on generating the hash of each password and keep it comparing with the hash that you have in order to find the password. This is actually a very slow process, and it takes a lot of time, especially if the dictionary size is really big. The rainbow table is much faster as compared to it. So rainbow tables are basically pre-computed hashes, which means that you have a dictionary of hashes which are pre-computed against the password. So you don't have to go through the process of taking the password, going through the hash function, getting the hash, and then comparing it. All you have to do is just compare the hashes that you have with the hash that you captured somewhere. And this is much, much, much more faster. The only problem here is that, first of all, you have to prepare your own rainbow table. So even if you go online, for example, you may find some rainbow tables, but they may be of no use to you. The reason why, because, for example, if I'm trying to crack Linux password and Linux is using 𝗕𝗏512, so I need to prepare a 𝗕𝗏512 rainbow table in order to crack the Linux password. And then, like I said, there are hundreds of, I think more than 400 hashing algorithms are used in Linux only. So yeah, I mean, you have to know which hash you have, and then you can prepare the rainbow tables accordingly. And then obviously the last but not the least is the non-electronic attacks, again, which is very popular choice for attackers. Rather than sitting down and trying to write codes and scripts in order to, why not to just do social engineering or shoulder surfing or dumpster diving, which doesn't require technical skills and and it really works. I have experienced this, but I'm not going to share my stories with you, but I have experienced this in many times, that the social engineering techniques in organizations, they really work well. So these are the 4 types of password attacks that are out there. And so how the password cracking works, actually I talked about it already, so I'm not going to repeat it. You have dictionary attacks where you have large dictionaries. You have rainbow tables, which are pre-computed hash values, and even for the salts, but obviously you have to sit down and generate these rainbow tables in order to crack the password. Now there's a long list of password cracking and hacking tools out there. Some of them I have listed here. John the Ripper is a very famous tool. Hashcat, a very fast tool as compared to John the Ripper, but it requires direct access to your GPUs in order to crack the passwords. Hydra for online passwords, Offcrack, Ettercap, BetterCap, NTM Relay, and there was one missing, MIT M6, man in the middle 6 as well. So again, it really depends on what you are trying to achieve, and you can use these tools accordingly. So I think it's time that we crack some passwords, and then I will come back to my presentation just to summarize and talk about some of the defense methods or defensive mechanisms that can be used in order to protect from these attacks. So if you guys are ready, we can just switch to the demo. So let me have a look at what's going on in the group. So, all right.
Yeah, please proceed.
So most of you are familiar with the Kali Linux. Whoever is in security, obviously they know it. But if you don't know, if you're new to cybersecurity, then Kali Linux is a platform which is having plenty of tools. So for example, if you want to do information gathering, you have a long list of tools. If you're doing vulnerability analysis, web application analysis, password attacks, wireless, reverse, you name it. So this is an open source, completely open source operating system that can be used for cybersecurity. Okay. So what I have done here is that I'm trying to do trying to demonstrate different types of attacks. So I have like dictionary files here. this is the midterm question that I gave to my students here, and I asked them to crack it, and if they can crack it, they can basically, get a 5-point bonus question, which is in this password protected file. So I'm going to use that as well. So let me just start with, so I'll start with the John. So first of all, I have a list of hashes here, which I generated online. So you can go online to any website and generate whatever hashes you want to generate. So this is these are NTLM hashes. Another thing I wanted to tell you is that if you don't know what type of hash you have, so for example, this is a hash that you got from somewhere, and you basically don't know what hash it is. So you can use online resources. There is a tool as well. I'm going to talk about it, but it's not really. So you can go online and say hash identifiers, because like I said, you need to know what kind of hash are you dealing with. So let me see this website. Okay, so I'm just going to paste it and see. So you can see here that this is possible NTLM hash. So sometimes you actually need to know and tell John what kind of hash you're trying to crack, otherwise it doesn't work. Secondly, there's a tool in Linux as well, but I really doubt that it's accurate. The reason why, because so it's called hash identifier. So I'm just going to copy, I think it is already there, but so I just copied this hash, the one that I used on the website, and I'm using it, hash identifier, to identify what type of hash it is. Sorry, I think I had to paste it here. Now the problem with this tool is that it doesn't give this, an accurate result. It's showing it as an MD5 hash. But the tool is there, and there are plenty of other tools that can be used to identify the hashes, right? So I'm going to first try to crack these NTLM hashes by using John. So like I said, John is basically a tool. John the Ripper is a tool. If you are interested in learning about it, you can go to help and you can see all the options that it has. So you can pretty much create your own rules. If you want to use the rules which are there by default, you can use those rules as well. I'm going to show you one custom rule that I have created in order to crack one of the passwords. But help is there. You can explore it and work more on it. So one more thing that you need to do, that sometimes I have seen that sometimes the students, they are trying to crack the password, and then they say, okay, John says it has cracked the password, but we can't see it. The reason is because there is a file called /root. Okay, so I actually removed this file. So there's a john.pot file in this. So when I crack the password, I will show you. It keeps on saving the password that it has cracked. Next time when you want to crack the password, it actually doesn't show you on the terminal, but the password is already cracked there, and it's saved in john.pot file. So let's, without further delay, I'm going to use John, and then the file that I'm using, these are the NTLM hashes. -- format is to identify the format. So I'm using, like I said, it's an NT or NTLM hash, and the word list that I'm using is a rawq.txt. rawq.txt is actually available by default in Linux, and it's in Kali Linux, and it's a very reasonable size dictionary. And by the way, if you go and read about rawq.txt, it was actually an online gaming platform, and the actual passwords are actually listed in rawq.txt. So that gaming platform was compromised, and millions of passwords, they were extracted, and they were published on the dark web. So rawq.txt is actually the dictionary which contains the actual passwords of the people who were using that particular platform. So if you see here, it was pretty quick, and it was quick because the passwords listed in this hash file, they were pretty simple, 12345 and 1234556 in password. So I deliberately, like I said, kept easy passwords so that we don't have to wait. Otherwise, you have to wait for a long time that these passwords they get cracked if it's a complex password. But for demonstration purposes, practice purposes, rawq.txt is a very reasonable dictionary. Now, another question that I get from this people is that where can we find, good dictionaries? So I have provided in my presentation at the end some of the really excellent resources where you can find the dictionaries in GBs. I mean, they're really huge dictionaries. So for example, lots of dictionaries are listed here on this link as well, on GitHub as well. So feel free to go and download these dictionaries. All right. So this was, like I said, it was pretty quick. And then I have another, so let me show you now. If I open john.pot file, which is in /root/.john.pot, it basically has saved all the passwords for those hashes in this file. So the next time when I try to crack it, it will not show these cracked passwords because they are already there. So if you face the same issue, just make sure to go and remove the pot file if you like, So I keep on removing john.pot so that the passwords are not saved. All right. Then I have MD5 hashes as well. So I have only 2 MD5 hashes that I have generated just to show you guys. So this is an MD5 hash and this is an MD5 hash. If you want to crack MD5 hashes, again, the method is same. The only difference is now the format is raw-MD5. If you write MD5, it will not work. So you always, if you're dealing with an MD5 hash, the format should be --format. --format is equal to raw-MD5. And then I'm using the same dictionary, rawq.txt. And you can see here, these are the 2 passwords, 𝗬𝗲𝗻 and whatever, right? Okay, now another important thing, if you want to know what kind of passwords formats are supported, formats, okay. What kind of formats are supported by John the Ripper? Like I said, there's a long list. So there are more than 400. Sorry, I made a mistake. Linux doesn't use more than 400 hashing algorithms. John supports more than 400 hashing algorithms. So you can see all, so whether it is being used by the PDF, by Ubuntu, Fedora, Windows, Microsoft Office, WinRAR, all these, hashing algorithms. So you can see here PKCERT, SHA-512 is there, which is basically used in the wireless protocols. And, crypt should be there, which is used by the Linux. Anyways, you can go through this list, and script is there, which is used by the Linux, and so on, right? So raw.md5, this is the one that I was using in order to crack the hash of a MD5 file. All right, what is next? Okay, so the next is, I have this, where is it? So I have SHA-256 as well. I'm not going to crack it, but the method is same. I'm going to go to this Windows directory and I want to show you basically. So what I did, I basically copied the SAM and the system file from one of my Windows operating system. Now remember, when the Windows is actually powered on, you do not have access. Even though if you're the admin, you actually cannot copy. You can try. You won't be able to copy the SAM file from system when it's powered on. And the reason is because the system, it actually locks that file. First of all, it's running into your memory when Windows boot after you're authenticated. So the authentication service, I think it's called LSAS. So it loads these hashes into the RAM. And that is why if you have a remote shell to a Windows, you can actually dump the hashes as well. Why? Because they are loaded into the RAM. But anyways, if the system is powered on, you basically do not have access to these files. So the question is, how do we gain access? Well, it's pretty simple. If the system is powered off, it's shut down, you can actually boot from the Linux USB and you can access the Windows file system. You can go to the system32 and config directory and you can copy these 2 files. So remember, you need both of these files in order to. Now, if I try to look into the SAM file, just like that, basically it's garbled. I mean, you won't be able to see the hashes of this file, right? So first of all, I have to dump the hashes from this file. So again, the SAM and the system file. So I'm going to use a tool called samdump2. SAMDUM2 and then provide the system file and the SAM file, and then I'm going to write it into Windows hashes.txt. So when I press enter, it basically has created a text file, Windows hashes.txt. And now if I open it, I can see that there is an administrator account on it. This is the user ID, and these are two hashes. So this is probably the LM hash, and this is the NT LM hash. And similarly, I have guest user Ali, and so on. Again, if you want to crack it, you go ahead and use John. Windows hashes.txt -- word list, and the word list that I'm using again is rocku.txt. So it will go ahead and crack the password. So now you can see the password for Ali is actually let me in, and there is no password on administrator. It's funny, but I actually had to reset this password. I was giving a demo, so I resetted this password. So blank basically means it doesn't have any password, and I will show you how you can actually get rid of a password and that can be used for, if you forget the password of your admin account for Windows. So I will show you a tool that can basically reset the password for the administrator account. But obviously it can be used for offensive purposes as well. But however, so this is how you dump the hashes and then how you can crack the hashes off. And by the way, you might have noticed that I'm not giving the format of these hashes anymore. So -- format. So sometimes if you do not give the format, what John does, it will try to figure out what kind of hash it is, right? Okay. Now, before I go further into the cracking, let me show you that tool which I'm talking about. So there's a tool called CHNTPW. Now, CHNTPW, you can use it to interact with the SAM file. So if you see here, CHNTPW-I basically means I'm interacting with the SAM file. And here you have a couple of options. So now you can either edit the user data or you can list the groups. You can go to the registry and edit the registry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use option number 1 to edit user data. Now, if you see here, I already told you that the administrator password is blank, so it's blank. However, in this tool, if you don't see anything, it basically means that there is a password on this account. So guest account is blank. This Ali, which is also the admin, it basically is protected with a password. So if you are in a situation where you forgot the admin password, you can actually, like I said, boot from the Linux, access the SAM file, go ahead and reset the password by using this tool, CHNTPW. So it can help you recover your account. So I'm going to select 3EB user, which is by default selected by the tool. And then it asks me, what do you want to do? Do you want to clear the password? Do you want to unlock the account if it is locked? So if it is locked, then this tool can help you to unlock it. But it says that it already seems to be unlocked. Like I said, I've been working with this file, off and on, so that's why it's already unlocked. So I will choose option number 1 to clear, and then let me show you. So now you can see that I have actually removed the password from this account. So if I go and place these two files back into the system from where I copied or replace them, this particular user can be logged in without the account. Another interesting thing about this tool is which is something that I would say sneaky about this tool is that it can also promote a guest user as the admin. So right now you can see that guest user is not an admin. So rather than resetting or cracking the password, if I select user F5, and if I want to promote it, you can use option number 3 here, and it is going to write this into the Hive, and then, sorry. Okay, Q. You can see that it basically made the guest. So now this is something that, usually the administrators, they don't really go and check if the guest has the admin rights or not, but unless it's, they obviously are auditing or something. So this is also one advantage of this tool from hackers' point of view, that you basically can promote a user through the admin. All right, so you can go ahead and explore more about this tool, what it can do. So I'm going to just exit it from here. Now let me show you something. So I told you that this file that I have, which is crack_midterm_question.pdf, it's actually a password protected file. So just to show you. So you can see here that it requires a password in order to access the file. So it could be a WinRAR file, it could be PDF file, it could be document file. All these applications, they provide you with this feature of securing using the password, right? So now what we are going to do is that we will try to crack the password for this PDF file. But before that, it is important to tell you that in some situations, you may have partial knowledge of a password. So for example, if I am your target and you know that this file belongs to me, and it's not only about the file, I mean, in general, about the passwords I'm talking. So you probably, now people have the habit of keeping dictionary password. A dictionary doesn't always mean like a word from the dictionary, but sometimes my name, for example, the organization that I'm working on, date of birth. And so what the hackers, they do is that they prepare a database of dictionary, sorry, not the database, a dictionary of the profile that they are targeting. And just to give you an example, you know, Hillary Clinton, everybody knows Hillary Clinton, right? Her Yahoo account was compromised by a 12-year-old boy. And the reason why, because she was using the password of the place where she dated first as her password, and he was able to simply guess it and gain access. So if you have information about the target, I mean, the hackers, when they have information about the target, and they will prepare a custom dictionary based on, you know, places where I was born, and we have a habit. I mean, whether you agree or not, we still use these kind of things in our passwords. The place where I'm working, the place where I was born, you know, my favorite car, stuff like this, right? So what I did here is that when I gave this challenge to the students, I told them that, okay, you have to prepare a custom dictionary, and it could be related to whatever is going on in the class, right? So it could be the class. I didn't give them hints, but I told them that it is related to the course, right? So I have created a rule, and then I told them that there's a 4-digit password in the end. So if you are trying to crack a password which has a 4-digit, 6-digit, 10-digit, or it has some special characters, you can actually create your custom rules rather than going through the whole dictionary. So I have created a custom rule. It's called my rule. At the bottom, you can see it here. And what I want to do is that whatever words are in the dictionary, it has to try to brute force a 4-digit PIN at the end of each of those words in the dictionary, right? So this is my custom rule. I'm going to go back, and then the first thing is that this file is actually password protected. So first we need to get the hash of the password, right? So I'm going to use a tool called PDF to John. So what PDF to John is going to do is that it is going to dump the hash of the password of this PDF file, and it is going to write it in PDF hash.txt file. Now, if I go and open this PDF hash.txt, you can see here that I have gained access to the hash. You can actually go ahead and read about, you know, these dollar signs, these numbers, they actually mean something. So I don't remember all of them, but, you know, it may mean it is using SHA 256. So this 5 means something, this 6 means something, this 256. It will tell you what kind of hashing algorithm is used by this PDF file. And same is true for the Linux. Linux also uses dollar signs, and then the hashing algorithm will be mentioned by a number in between these dollar signs. So now that we have the hash, let's try to crack the hash using John. So PDF hash.txt -- word list. So this is my custom dictionary, okay, dict.txt. And this is my custom rule that I want to use, the one that I just created. That rule basically says that go to this dictionary and try to apply my rule on it. And what does the rule say? The rule says that take every word in the dictionary and brute force a 4-digit PIN at the end of that password, right? Now, this may take a little while, so I'm just going to show you. So I'm just going to show you what is happening here. So what is happening here is that it is trying to use those passwords at the rate and then trying 4-digit PIN. So it will apply or brute force all those, all the possible 4-digit pins against each password, right? So it will take a while, so I will let it go in the background and we will come back to it once this has completed. So this is how you basically, and then again, if you have, for instance, a RAR file, so let me show you. Okay, so I also have a RAR file. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm just going to show you. So this is a RAR file, and this is also password protected. If I try to unrar it, ranger.rar, you can see that it is asking me for the password because it is password protected. Again, the method is same. You just have to use another tool in order to dump the hashes of a RAR file. So if you are trying to dump the hashes of a RAR file, you have to use a tool called rar to John, just like PDF to John. You have rar to John, and then you give the file name, and then you are going to write those hashes in a file called ranger hash or any name you can give. And then if I go to ranger.txt file, this is basically the hash of this WinRAR file that is password protected. And then I can use again John the Ripper or hashcat. So I haven't talked about hashcat. I will talk to you about hashcat shortly, but again, this is a $sign and 16 is there. So you can Google what does this 16 means, what kind of hashing algorithm is used by WinRAR, right? Okay, let's see what happens here. Still going on. Okay. All right. What else? Let me have a look. What else we need to cover? Yeah, the next thing, which is Linux passwords, right? So now I told you that Linux passwords are better and more secure in terms of if somebody is trying to brute force and he doesn't have the salt, it's probably not worth trying to crack the password. So in Linux, there are two files. Just like in Windows, you have system and shadow file, system and SAM file. In Linux, you have shadow and passwd file. So if you look into the passwd file, it basically provides the users. So there's a user ranger, Khan, and so on and so on. There's a root user as well, and their directories, home directories. But the hashes and the salt are basically in passwd file. So you basically need both of these files. Yeah, you basically need both of these files if you're trying to crack the hashes of. So what do I need to do? First, I need to unshadow the file. So how do you unshadow? There's a tool called unshadow. Then you have to provide the passwd file, the shadow file, and then you can write it into any text file. So I'm naming it as linuxhashes.txt. So it will basically dump all the hashes and then plus the salt value, by the way, because the salt is also stored there. So if you see here, now I can see the hash. Before, when I tried to cat the passwd file, it was not showing me any kind of hash. So it has a salt value in the beginning and then it has the hash value. Okay. So if I want to crack it, my John the Ripper is busy, so we'll just wait for a while and we'll try to crack the hashes of the Linux file as well. But remember, I mean, obviously you need access to the passwd file if you want to get the hashes. If you only have the hash and you don't have the salt, it's not, I mean, I can't say it's not possible, but you know, it will take ages to break the Linux password. Okay, so now hashcat. The problem with So I had two problems. Last night I was trying to prepare something new for this, demo, which I actually crashed my actual laptop, and then I had to move to the new laptop. So I don't have an Active Directory set up here, but there is a tool called NTM Relay and MITM6 that can be used to launch attacks in a client server environment or in a work group environment where a user is trying to access a shared folder or something, and then you can actually get the hashes of those passwords. The second thing is that Hashcat actually in a VM, sometimes it gives you problems because it requires access to the GPU. So I don't know, maybe there's a driver issue. I've tried to troubleshoot it a couple of times, but it does the same job just like John the Ripper, except with the difference that Hashcat is extremely fast because it uses only GPUs. So I would suggest, in real-time password cracking, Hashcat probably is the first choice for cracking. So let me go back. So if you see here now, this has completed, and after trying all the custom rule, it has basically cracked the password, and it says that the password is CS351@2016. Now we can try this on this file, CS351@2016. Right, so there you go. You have the access to the password, and you have a midterm question. Well, it's no use to you, but the students, they got 5 points for it. All right. Some of them actually were able to crack it because the password was a little bit complex for them, and not this one, obviously, but I chose this password for this particular demo so that we can crack it. But I remember one student, he submitted me the screenshot. He was able to crack the password after like 45 hours. So yeah, if the password is complex, it is going to take more time. So that is why we keep on saying that, keep the password complex, use alphanumeric passwords. The minimum length is this, and so on. We'll talk about it at the end of the session. Now, one more thing. So far we have been trying to crack the hashes, and I was mostly using John the Ripper, and then we also used CHNTPW. But what about the online attacks if somebody is trying to gain access to a service which is running on a remote server? So I'm going to use a tool called NetDiscover. You can use Nmap as well. It will basically scan for the hosts which are there on this network. So I have a VM running on 130 IP address. So let's just assume that this is my target, and copy. And I'm going to run Nmap and -SS or ST. It's up to you which options you. Now, if you are new to Nmap, I would suggest you can go and read about it. If you already know, it's good. I think it's a very popular tool. Anybody in security knows what is Nmap. So I'm going to use -SS. I'm going to run a TCP SYN scan in order to find out if there are any open ports on this target and what kind of service is running on that target. So here we can see that there's port 21, which is open, which is FTP, and there is 22 open, which is an SSH, and port 80 is open, which is mostly open on most of the target systems. So what I'm trying to do here is that I'm going to, so first thing first, when you're trying to SSH, as an attacker, if you know the username, then you will try to brute force the password, right? If you don't know the username and you don't know the password, you will try to brute force the username and the password. If you know the password, but you don't know the username, you will try to brute force the usernames based on a single password. So all of these are possible, but what I'm trying to show you here is that I have a user John on this machine, and I'm trying to SSH, and it is asking me for the password to make an SSH connection with the server. So we don't know the password. We will try to crack it by using a tool called Hydra. Now, like I said, if you don't know the password, so I'm going to do it for Asad. So I have multiple users on this machine, Asad, John, and other users are also there. So I'm going to use Asad as the user. So -L is for the username. If you don't know the username, for example, you can use -L and then you have to provide the dictionary for the username. So for example, I'm targeting XYZ organization and I know there are people working in there. So I will make a list of the usernames and use it as a dictionary to feed it to Hydra. And then -P, capital P is for the password, which means that if I know the password, I will use the password with a small p, -P. But if I don't know the password, I will use capital P with the dictionary, and then the IP address of the target and the SSH service, which I'm trying to get the password for. So let's see if we can find, no. It will take more time because it will go through all the users. So I don't think we have enough time that we can keep on waiting. So I'm going to use -L, and I'm going to use the user Asad. The password is somewhere in this custom dictionary that I have. So again, it will not be very quick, but it will take some time. So it is trying to brute force all the passwords which are dictionary against the user Asad. Maybe it can do it quickly. But anyway, so okay, so we got it. So you can see here that the password is MF673H2TP. And by the way, this is the password for me that was compromised, and that is there on the dark web. So let me just SSH now with this user just to make sure that we have the right password. All right, so we try to SSH, we paste the password, and there you go. So you have basically the SSH access to the terminal. So similarly, there's an FTP service running. So the only difference is that if I want to crack the password of an FTP application which is running there, so FTP, and then again, the username and the dictionary file, right? So this is how the Hydra works in order to launch online attacks. This -M option is also there. -M means that if you want to attack a list of IP addresses, it's like a password spraying attack. So if you don't know that this password is on which machine, for example, so you can use Hydra, provide it with -M option, and provide it with the list of IP addresses on which you actually want to try that password, right? So that option is also there. Again, you can always go to -H or -help to find out what other options, because it's difficult for me to cover everything. So you can always go to the help of this tool and see what other options you have and what you can do with these tools, right? So Hashcat, like I said, it probably won't work because I tried it and it doesn't actually, it says that I do not have enough memory, which basically means that the Hashcat is unable to access my host, the actual graphics GPUs on my system, right? So anyways, the format is there if you want to go and work with it. I will include a link to the tutorial on Hashcat as well. So it starts with -M and O. So just like in John the Ripper, you have to tell him what is the hash format that you are trying to crack. So if I'm trying to crack MD5 hashes, it's basically 0 for MD5. If you're cracking other hashes, accordingly, you have to change this number. And then you provide it with the, hashes, and then provide it with the dictionary. Like I said, they both do the same job. The difference is that Hashcat is much, much, much more faster as compared to the John the Ripper. All right, one last thing, and then probably we'll be done. I'm going to use a SCT toolkit. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a social engineering toolkit, which basically is a very nice toolkit, and it provides you with a lot of attack vectors. But the one that I'm using today is for credential harvesting. So many times you receive an email saying that click on this link and a website opens up which looks like a legitimate website, asks you to enter the username and password, and then basically the attacker is actually harvesting those credentials, right? So I'm going to use the social engineering attacks, option number 1. website attack vectors. And within website attack vectors, I'm going to use credential harvesting, which is option number 3. Now you have 3 options in this tool. Either you can use the web templates which are already there, or you can clone a site. Now, I don't want to clone any site because I don't want to be held responsible tomorrow for anything, but you can pretty much clone any website. So I've tested on it many websites. I've tested that whether it actually can properly clone the website or not. So the site cloner works pretty good. It supports both HTTP and HTTPS. Doesn't matter what kind of web pages you're dealing with, it will do a good job. Now for this particular demo, I'm just going to use the web templates, which are already available there. So what it says is that on which IP address you want to do harvesting. So this is my Kali Linux IP address, and I want to keep it on this because I want to harvest it on Kali Linux. It has basically just 3 templates for testing purposes: Google, Twitter. So let's go with option number 3 or 2, for example, if I want to clone Google web page. Use the template of Google. It may be a little bit older template, but like I said, you can always go ahead and clone any website that you want. So it's running. The credential harvester is running. So I'm not going to teach you or talk about masking the URLs and converting the IPs into URLs. I mean, this is beyond the scope of this workshop, and plus we are dealing, we are just doing it for ethical purposes and just for the learning point of view. So I will just restrict myself to some of the details. So the IP address of my Kali is, just to show you that it's working. So this is the IP address of my Kali Linux. Now, we don't want to go into the detail of actual scenarios, but here you can see that the IP of my Kali is basically showing me that it's a Google login page, right? So probably when you receive the phishing emails, I'm not saying that the SCT toolkit is there, but similar kind of strategies are used where, on some IP address, domain will be, running, hosted, which basically is a fake domain or used for phishing. So if I just use here .com, and obviously I'm not going to use my actual password. I've been hacked twice. I don't know why, but I have been a target for a long time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And you try to sign in. Now you will see that it redirects you to the actual web page, but what happens on the other end is, where did it go? So what happens on the other end is that basically the credentials are being harvested. So you can see the email address and the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is a very nice toolkit, I would say. I mean, it has a lot of tools. I mean, apart from just credential harvesting, many different types of web attacks can be launched. Email spamming and stuff like this, right? Let me just have a look if I missed anything on my list that I wanted to cover. And then we'll go towards concluding the discussion because we are almost 15 minutes left with 15 minutes, right? Okay, so I have pretty much covered not everything related to the password attack, but what I wanted to cover for this session, I've done. Let's talk about now that how do we protect against the password attacks, the big question, right? Well, there's no single solution. There's no golden rule. Obviously, nowadays the organizations are much more strict in password policies that you are actually forced to use strong passwords, a minimum length, but still you will see that we end up using some dictionary password. You'll be using your organization's name, your name with some caps lock and @ and then your date of birth, something like this, right? So yeah, the first rule is using strong password policies, implementing them in the organization. And then nowadays, obviously, most of the organizations, if not all, they're using multi-factor authentication. Okay, so we'll be using multi-factor we are using multi-factor authentications. The different types of multi-factor authentications are being used. So it will either be a combination of a biometric plus a PIN code, for example. It could be, security token devices which offer you with, one-time passwords apart from the password that you have already. And I don't know if it's popular in Pakistan nowadays, but in US and other countries, there's an application called Duo. It's becoming very famous and popular because most of the academic institutions, at least that I know, they are using the Duo application for, two-factor authentication. So as you can see it here on the screenshot on the right side, so when you try to log in, it basically sends you a push message, or it can call you, or it can display a one-time passcode on your cell phone, and that you can enter. Similarly, you might have at least configured two-factor authentication in Google, and you might have the experience of using a two-factor authentication. The idea is that we cannot rely on one-factor authentication just based on the username and the password, right? Then also we have password managers nowadays. Many, Bitdefender, Kaspersky, there are many companies out there which are offering password managers, because we have the tendency to use easy passwords because complex passwords are hard to remember. And either we will end up using the same password for multiple applications, which is again, not a very good practice, that if you use the same password for multiple applications, or we end up using easy passwords, right? So you can use password managers. Biometric authentication is there anyways. I have used YubiKeys, and they're, very, another, a better way to protect your passwords. You can buy YubiKeys. You can integrate it with, use it with multiple applications like Google and other. Obviously, last but not the least, employees training should be a top priority in any organization. I mean, usually it is underrated and underestimated, but employees training and awareness is one of the most significant ways that you can actually defend yourself, because at the end of the day, like I said, doesn't matter how much money you spend on protecting your organization, implementing sophisticated security controls, but just because a person of his, I would say, mistake, or because he was naive, he clicked on a link and then, he gave away his credentials and ended up compromising the whole organization, right? This is not an exhaustive list of how you can protect against the password attack. Obviously, it's much more than that, but I've listed some tools so you can find the dictionaries on these. They're really huge dictionaries, so I usually just try to use rockyou.txt for demonstration purposes, but there are really dictionaries in GBs which are available on this. But then obviously you need, so I have seen, and I'm actually in process of preparing a password cracker, which basically I'm going to make my own, GPU-based password cracker dedicated only for password cracking. So I've seen a couple of these, in some expos where people, they have made their own custom password cracking, and they can actually crack pretty much anything at a very high rate. It can go through billions of passwords per second because you have, nothing is sharing your memory, or so the password cracking becomes very fast. Plus, there are other tools nowadays available that you can distribute password cracking on multiple machines. You can set them up and then, try to crack the passwords on multiple systems rather than one. These are the tools and the resources which are listed there. With this, I would like to thank you very much for attending this. I didn't bore you with a lot of discussion and a lot of, I tried to keep myself, within time limit and do not go into too much technical details. But if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Asad, for an excellent session. That was really informative. So now we have a question and answer session, Q&A session. So floor is open. I would request all the participants to raise hands so we would have your questions one by one. So Asad, should we proceed for a Q&A session?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So let's have questions from participants.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. It was a very good session. I just want to know that from where we get the recording of the session and the slides and the tools. Can you share any drive links so that we can get the resources?
Yes,
Sure.
Talat, we will upload this recording on our YouTube channel, and we will inform you accordingly.
Okay. In the meantime, I will just start a poll. Let me just start a poll so that just
have a
something.
one poll as well.
Yeah. So guys, I'm going to start a poll, and it's just a simple question. Okay, so it's a simple yes and no, right, guys? So so the question is that, have you ever been pawned? Which basically means that ever in your life your password was compromised and you came to know that you lost your password. So I'm just running this poll, just want to get an idea what I mean, for myself, I've already told you that my password was compromised twice and I lost access to my account. But I want to see about, from the participants. So please say yes or no if you were ever pawned and your password was compromised. Would be interesting to see. So you can, okay, sorry. Yeah, so you can, now, now the poll is there. Just click on the poll, guys. All right. In the meantime, we can also, the floor is open. If you guys have any questions, apart from, the slides which you will receive, and I think the recording will also be uploaded somewhere on the YouTube. So Imran will share, or
Yes.
Babar will share more details about them.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to ask, like, for example, if we have some we have a target's files and everything that are password protected. Can you kindly guide us one more time? Like, how would we go around hacking into those hacking into a Word file, let's say, or a PDF or anything, something like that?
Yeah, so I went through them. I mean, again, it's from the learning perspective. So any file that is protected through the password, I just showed you two of them. If there's a WinRAR file or a PDF file, you going around basically what I understand is that how the password can be cracked, not like bypassing it. There might be some way of some particular application that you can bypass, but not that I know that you can just simply bypass the control without even trying to crack the password. So they might be there, but like I said, it's not in my knowledge that you can bypass the password for PDF file. But yeah, I mean, the other one, I have just showed it to you for PDF. The same method is for the doc files. The same method is for Excel files or any other file for that matter. That first you need to dump the hashes of that. So obviously Microsoft Office is using a different hashing algorithm. PDF is using a different hashing algorithm. WinRAR is using a different hashing algorithm. So accordingly, you have to dump the hashes and try to crack them. But like you asked me, bypassing, I'm not really aware of it.
I specifically meant cracking. Sorry, wrong choice of words. I specifically meant cracking, or like other such as.
So I mean, if you want because I usually, when I give trainings, for example, so this was a very short session, I would say, but usually password cracking lasts for a very long time because I wanted to give you guys also a demo on how to launch NTLM relay attack or man-in-the-middle attack when you are in an Active Directory environment, and how you can redirect the users and then get the hashes of the passwords, those who are logging into the Active Directory. But unfortunately, my system crashed. I had VMs on it, and I was not able to do it today. But it takes more than that. I mean, I have to spend more time only on password cracking. So you can see that while I was presenting, I was talking very fast. I was just trying to catch up and try to finish what I wanted to. But yeah, we can provide you with more resources on that if you are interested in password cracking specifically.
Okay. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
Asad, there is a question from Rayan Ahmed. What do you think about AI taking over the field of cybersecurity?
Well, it's not taking over. It's an opportunity for us, I would say, from both perspectives. I mean, if hackers are using AI for launching attacks, as cybersecurity experts, people are developing. So, for example, intrusion detection systems. So my idea, I mean, the research area that I'm trying to work on is also related to AI because I'm working on, like I said, APT's detection I haven't decided specifically, but generally in OT systems. So again, AI is not only taking over, but it's actually supporting cybersecurity. So if it's supporting the hackers, it is also supporting us as cybersecurity professionals. So we should take full advantage of it. That's my opinion on it. So there are some chat messages also, right? So, okay, so, okay. Okay, so anybody who's interested in collaboration for research, yes, I'm open to it. So you can send me an email. Imran will share with you guys, and then
Sure.
we can exchange emails, and then if we find an area of interest where we can work together, you're always welcome, and yeah, there's no problem.
Okay. Asad, I would like to thank on behalf of National CERT for delivering an excellent session and be a part of this national program. It was highly informative session, and we are confident that all our participants found it both enjoyable and enlightening. So we would definitely engage you and invite you for again to have some more couple of sessions like this, informative sessions in near future. I would like to welcome 𝗦𝗲𝗃𝗀 𝗧𝗿𝗶. He is Director in Capacity Building Division in National CERT.
Hello, Asad. I'm 𝗦𝗲𝗃𝗀 𝗧𝗿𝗶. I'm the Director Capacity Building at National CERT. So
Right.
I'd like to extend my gratitude towards this enlightening session. And I hope all who have attended are as inspired as I am with this incredible webinar session. I want to take this moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Asad Raza, for sharing his expertise with us, and not just theoretical, but also a very practical approach towards passwords and password tracking and password management and best practices. Asad, your insights have actually made us enlightened, and your ability to distill this complex ideas into a clear, actionable insight is truly remarkable. We're very, we're very grateful, and we highly appreciate your passion. It's really contagious, and it's evident that your dedication on mastering the craft is actually reflected towards the talk that you delivered us today. So on behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you for your time, your expertise, and your unwavering commitment to excellence. Your contribution has enriched us all, and we are immensely grateful for the opportunity to learn from you. So I would like to, if there are no further questions, Imran, I'd like to close the session by thanking once again to Mr. Asad, and also to the entire audience who have connected and been part of this webinar. So thank you once again. We'll be looking forward to more collaborations with you, Asad, and we will be looking forward to avenues where we can probably connect and do some work together.
Thank you, 𝗲𝗲. I'm overwhelmed, and thanks a lot for inviting me for this talk. And thank you everyone who participated and joined and attended this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Asad. Thank you very much, and thanks to all participants to make this session successful, and we hope you enjoyed. Thank you everyone. Thanks. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.